I woke to golden light spilling across my face. For a second, I forgot where I was. The sun, small, distant, glowed through the cabin viewport, casting long amber streaks across the ceiling. The ship's artificial gravity cradled me gently against the mattress. A low hum of machinery vibrated faintly through the floor beneath my back, steady, familiar, almost comforting. But the quiet wasn't peaceful. It was hollow. I didn't realize it yet, but something was off. Something was missing. I sat up slowly, rubbed my eyes, still watching the light from that distant sun dance across the metal walls. For a few moments, everything felt normal, peaceful. I swung my legs off the bed, feet touching cool metal. The coldness hit immediately. Not sharp, not a bite, just that thick, deep cold that seeps through your skin and wraps around your bones. My feet hit the floor with a quiet thud, but the weight of the stillness pressed harder than gravity ever could. I felt a heaviness in the air, like the ship was waiting, watching. The hum of the engines was there, soft, steady, but it didn't sound right. Not comforting, just distant. I stood, legs shaky at first, and stretched, trying to shake off the fog. The air tasted stale, almost sterile. I should have been used to it by now. But today, it tasted wrong. I walked barefoot across the cabin, the chill of the metal floor biting into the soles of my feet with every step. It was a quiet sound, but loud enough to remind me of the silence surrounding me. I reached the synth coffee dispenser and punched in the usual order. It whirred, a low, mechanical noise that seemed too loud in the empty room. The mug was warm in my hands. But when I took that first sip, bitter, too bitter. I almost spit it out. I set it back down on the counter, the click of the mug against the surface louder than it should have been. I turned to the cabin terminal, my fingers brushing against the cold screen as I ran a quick scan. Basic vitals, ship systems, location, all green. Everything was as it should have been. Except there was no time, no timestamp, no mission clock, nothing. A blank space, empty, like a hole where something was supposed to be. My chest tightened. I scanned the logs. Nothing. Not even the usual cryo status update. The terminal froze, then rebooted, an automatic restart I hadn't asked for. My stomach knotted. I reached for my cup again, but pulled my hand back. It didn't feel right. None of this felt right. I put the cup down and walked to the door. The door opened with its usual soft hiss. But the moment it did, the silence outside hit me, like a punch to the gut. It was so much louder than the hum of the engines. The quiet was crushing, like the entire ship was holding its breath. I stepped out into the corridor. The floor was cold under my bare feet. The air felt thick, heavier than it should have been. No breeze, no rush of ventilation, just an eerie stillness. I glanced down the hallway. The lights were on, as they always were, casting long shadows against the walls. Everything was in place. Too much so. A jacket still draped over a chair by the mess hall. The familiar patch on the sleeve. A card game still half played. A data pad blinking softly on the floor, its display lighting up like someone had just dropped it. Seconds ago, maybe. I crouched to pick it up, my knees pressing into the cold floor. The metal dug into my skin, cold and unforgiving. I could feel the chill right through my pants. The data pad was warm, too warm. Had someone been holding it? Had they dropped it just before I woke up? A strange sensation crawled up my spine. I felt my pulse quicken, my breath shallow. I stood. I couldn't stay still any longer. I moved forward, my footsteps louder than usual. They echoed off the walls, an unsettling sound in the quiet. The silence felt like a weight pressing down on me, pulling at my chest. I reached the cryo bay. The doors opened without a sound. 12 pods, all open, not malfunctioning, not damaged, just open, empty. Every bed perfectly made, every piece of equipment neatly stored. The rooms looked like they had been prepared for the crew to return, but there was no one. No one had been here for how long? I turned and left the cryo bay, the emptiness weighing on me. The silence was deafening as I moved down the corridor, the hum of the ship's systems barely noticeable. I reached the main command center and stepped inside. The consoles flickered to life, showing normal system readings, but there was nothing on the comms. I approached the radio and pressed the emergency button. "This is Commander Rios," I said, voice shaking. "Is anyone there?" Static filled the air, followed by silence. I tried again, but still nothing. Just the quiet, oppressive hum of the ship. I pulled up the ship's systems, accessed Lyra's console. Everything was as it should have been. No sign of distress, no log entries. And then, a ping. Just a single blip on the radar. My eyes snapped to the screen. It was faint. Too faint. I zoomed in, but the coordinates were scrambled. The signal barely there, just static. I leaned closer, my heart thudding in my chest. What was that? I stared at the screen, waiting for something more. Anything. Silence stretched. The ping vanished. No trace. I let out a slow breath, trying to push down the knot in my stomach. It had to be a glitch, right? But before I could convince myself, it came again. A second ping. Clearer this time, but still faint, still distant. It wasn't static anymore. It was deliberate. My hands trembled slightly as I tried to recalibrate the radar. The coordinates were still unreadable, but the ping, it was real. There was something out there. I felt a cold sweat on my neck. The ping echoed in the silence. Then, gone again. The radar screen went blank. I stared at the empty void. Was it a distress signal? Was it another ship? I didn't know, but it was something I couldn't ignore. And then, I remembered something. The cryo logs. I pulled up the emergency activation record. The crew had been woken up. All of them. 4 hours before me. No records after that. No messages. No mission data. Just absence. Why was I left behind? Why hadn't I been woken with them? I scanned further. One entry, buried deep in the system. A security override. Not from Lyra. From something else. The ping had woken them. That signal, whatever it was, had triggered an automated response. Cryo disengage. Full crew. Except me. I was excluded. I stumbled back from the terminal, my heart pounding. The last crew log was blank. Just static. They'd been taken. Not killed. Taken. And I had been left behind. An image flickered onto the screen. Something vast, angular, wrong, not human. I backed away, my breath catching in my throat. Lights across the ship began to dim. Then, the emergency lights flared red. The system began counting down. Containment protocol initiated. Reactor destabilization imminent. My instincts kicked in. I ran, bare feet pounding on cold metal. Down corridor after corridor. The ship shuddered beneath me, something massive pressing against the hull. A low groaning sound filled the air, like metal bending, breaking. I rounded the corner to the escape bay. Emergency lights blinking, the doors wide open. All the pods still docked, every single one. Untouched, perfect, ready. No signs of struggle, no missing modules, just rows of sealed, unused pods. They hadn't tried to escape. They'd never made it this far. Or worse, they had, and something stopped them. I didn't think. I couldn't. I threw myself into the nearest pod, slapped the controls. The hatch sealed shut with a hiss. For a moment, everything held still. Then, launch. The pod jolted violently, ejected into the void. I was slammed into the seat, pinned by the force of the thrusters. And then, silence. Just the low hum of life support. The vastness of space swallowed everything. No stars through the viewport, just blackness, and behind me the dying glow of the ship, shrinking, fading, gone. My chest rose and fell in sharp, ragged bursts, each breath louder than it should have been. Hollow, trapped in this tiny shell of metal and plastic, barely wider than a coffin. The pod was dark except for a single emergency light pulsing red above my head. My knees were pulled up, almost touching my chest. My arms pressed close to my sides. There was no room to stretch, no way to move. I could hear my breathing bounce off the walls, echoes chasing me in the dark. Inhale, exhale, too fast, too loud. The air felt thick like it hadn't been used in years. Warm, stale, recycled. I pressed my hand against the wall beside me. Cold metal, barely an inch between me and the void. I closed my eyes, tried to slow my breathing, tried to stop the panic rising in my throat. But it was there, the realization, the terrible, terrifying truth. No one else made it out. Not because they couldn't, but because something didn't let them. And now I'm out here, alone, drifting, and somewhere, out there, it's still watching,